I know you're a proud Second Amendment guy, but the Biden administration unveiling this week some gun control measures. How does that conversation look right now in your mind of the state, between the state and the federal government?
So this state, and every state like this state, regardless of an executive order, or hopefully never a congressional action that limits Second Amendment rights, there'll be a huge non-compliance. I mean, purely the individual citizen that believes in Second Amendment rights isn't going to go along willingly. So I hope that our president has enough people around him that shows the wisdom in not pushing that envelope too far down the road, because we are a country of law, and we're a country based on a constitution that gave us that right, and any impediment into that is move at your own peril. So I hope our administration is not so naive or so detached from that conversation. So that's the first level. They need to recognize that this is a non-starter and a non-go for Second Amendment people, and they won't go willingly. So it's going to be a really bad outcome, I think, if they get too aggressive. The state itself, our governor has made us a Second Amendment sanctuary state. That's one of his objectives. I haven't seen the bills. I think there's some floating around out there, so I'm almost certain that we'll get it out of the Senate if it comes up. I would suspect that the House makeup, you will still get that out. So what does that really mean? I think it's a symbolic pushback that we aren't going down this path. And it'll get tied up in the Supreme Court. Every one of these issues, I mean, that's a no-brainer. It's a Second Amendment right. You can't restrict my right to defend myself against an overreaching government or other. And so bottom line is that issue's going to go to the Supreme Court, and that's all we can do right now. In a civil society, we just do the civil pushback and let it take its course, and you won't get an injunction right on an executive order. So I think it's political pandering at its worst, and I think that he's playing to a base that is a very, very small part of this country on some level, but some people just don't get it. And I'll lay that at the footstep of our education systems, why those rights were put in place and what the thought was behind them. So different conversations, but we will be a Second Amendment sanctuary state if the Senate and the governor, and I'm assuming the House, has their way.
You were on after the shooting in El Paso and Odessa, you were tapped to be on the Mass Violence Select Committee, is that right? How do you weigh some of the conversations that were had during those meetings about gun violence and about violence in this state with your position on the Second Amendment? I mean, how do you?
It's very simple, and actually it makes my case for me. I think Lubbock guy that sold the gun is now in jail. So the guy that had the gun that went to Midland was illegally obtained, right? Didn't have the background checks done. So the laws are in place. So we don't need to make new laws against good law-abiding citizens. There's 100 million gun owners in this country. And during those hearings that we were having over this, I think I went back and looked since Columbine, there was like 30 plus, maybe 40 instances. So we're willing to take away one of the Second Amendment, not the 10th, not the 5th, but the Second Amendment right, because 30 some odd, 40 some odd instances of really bad people that the majority of them got their guns illegally. A new law wouldn't have fixed that, at the peril of 100 million good, God-fearing, gun-toting, gun-owning people. And that's what we are guilty of doing down here. When something bad happens in that very, very small 1%ers or whoever it is, we go in and disrupt 99% of the good people. So if you look at most of the shootings, they were obtained illegally. They didn't follow the law. A law wouldn't have prevented that guy from having that gun or that person. So there's nothing we can do to legislate the right thing or morality when it comes to this issue. There's always going to be those bad people or those people that are not quite right that do bad things with guns. My response is I want to be able to defend myself. And I'm going to protect my right to defend myself against that situation if it ever comes up, heaven forbid.